welcome back to the Real Positive Girl podcast. My name is Sabrina, and happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for coming back and listening to another episode. I hope that you guys are having a great Tuesday. I hope that your day has started off well, if it's just beginning, and that it just leads out on the right foot and it's just absolutely amazing. And if your day is already in the middle or towards the end and it wasn't so great, then I hope that you were able to take your 5 minutes of time to kind of reboot, reset, come back to baseline, have some peace to yourself so that you are able to just fresh start from that moment right then and there, just like start again, be able to salvage the rest of the day, do not throw the rest of the day away. And if you feel like, okay, Sabrina, I cannot have any more joy or happiness or peace for the rest of the day, I'm done. Okay, sure, I get it, we're all human. Things are not going to always be perfect or anything like that, so I want to encourage you to at least have a neutral sense of the rest of the day. Again, don't throw it all away. Try to find something to be grateful for. Remember that you're still grateful to be alive and have your health and have a job or have the opportunities that you have, family, friends, whatever it is. Kind of think of the things that you are grateful for, tap into those, and then just feel like live the rest of the day just feeling neutral, feeling fine, and knowing that tomorrow's going to be an even better day. So please keep that in mind, as I mention every single episode. I'm trying to keep it, I noticed that on Mondays, I kind of really draw it out. And then for the rest of the week, I try to just chop it down real quick and short because you've been here before and you know. So just as a reminder, this week we're talking about personal boundaries, which I have really enjoyed researching about, writing notes about. Honestly, I feel like all the episodes this week are going to be a little bit longer than they typically are. I've been trying to keep my episodes within the 15-minute range. Yesterday's episode was already over 20 minutes. I'm hoping to keep this one right at 20 minutes or below, but I've just had so much fun writing about it. I am such a big, giant, huge believer in personal boundaries and setting those, maintaining them, figuring out the best way for you to create them. So anyway, enough about that. As you can tell, I'm very excited. So today, Tuesday, we are going to discuss when to say no. And that is in part to when is it okay to say no? And honestly, let me just start here. It's okay to say no whenever you want to say no, but it's just filled with examples and things to think about when you should feel okay saying no that is within the personal boundaries that you've set for yourself. So let's go ahead and officially jump right in. If you are a people pleaser like me, raise your hand. I'm raising mine right now. It's super tough to say no, almost impossible. And if you do say no, you are easily convinced otherwise. And I can say that with so much conviction that it is true because I know it to be true. Not just with me, but with many other people that I know that are people pleasers. You'll say no, you'll feel good about it for about 30 seconds. They'll convince you otherwise and say, no, come on, change your mind. This will be great. Let me give you a bunch of bullcrap reasons why you should do this. And you're like, okay. Because you feel guilty, right? You feel guilty and you're like, oh, I gotta give in. Or I'm going to seem weak if I don't say yes. Or I'm going to be like a party pooper. Or they're not going to accept me. All this other crap that we need to let go of. But I get it. I get you. I am where you are at. I understand. But we need to realize that we need to get over that. We need to get over the fear of telling people no. And sometimes you might think you don't need to say no because you actually really want to do something, be involved and participate. But it's important to know our bandwidth and what we can actually do and what will actually be good for us. So, you might think that going out to that party or going to the club or the bar to celebrate your friend's birthday sounds really fun, sounds like a place you want to be, but honestly, deep down inside that if you go to the bar, you've had experience with getting out of control, and you're not at a point yet where you can revisit that space, that kind of entertainment, and be okay with it. Or that going to the club, you'll think it's all fun, and then you'll get there and you'll feel very scared, insecure. Maybe you've had some experiences with people touching you inappropriately, people talking to you. There is a dark road there that you are not ready to re-explore, despite how fun it might seem in the explanation. Maybe it seems like it would be great to go to some event where you have to speak up and share your mind, and you're just you feel confident enough and you feel like you're ready for it. And believe me, there are times where you should definitely push yourself, but you also need to like really think it through and be like, am I really ready for this? Is this really ready? Wow, is this really the time for this? Am I really ready for this? That's what I was trying to say. Are you really ready for this? And you got to really think it through. You got to decide for yourself, of course, because everyone's in charge of their own emotions and what they are and their decisions and what they decide to do. But you do need to take the time to actually think it through. Don't just jump on impulse and be like, yes, or don't just jump on other people expecting you to go and trying to convince you, manipulate you based upon a history of being able to do that to you, maybe. Really take the time and decide for yourself, because there's going to be times where it's okay to go, and then there's going to be times where it's not okay to go, and you have to force yourself to say no because you know it's better for you in the long run. It's a little easier to say no to things you don't want to do, of course, but for the things that have your interest, it can be a struggle, as we already spoke about, and sometimes you'll be disappointed, but just make the decision that is best for you and your mental health. That is always what is important with anything that I talk about ever. You have to make the best decision for you and your mental health, despite what other people might say or think or try to convince you otherwise. It's always about you and your mental health, always, always, always. Make sure you are evaluating whether you have the resources mentally or physically to participate in whatever it is. So, like I said, if you feel fine, you feel like, oh, I can go and dance the night away and have fun with my friends, but mentally you're going to feel very scared and worried, and you might even jump into some anxiety, a panic attack. You don't want that to happen, You go to the bar, you might have this inner conflict with yourself. You're like, oh man, I want to have one drink, but I know that one will lead to 5 or 7 or 10, and I know my limit is 1, but being within that group of people, that might be too much. Maybe it is. And honestly, I can't speak too much to that as like any sort of personal understanding of, those things, because I haven't experienced them firsthand. But based on research and encounters that other people have told me, I can understand how that would be really hard for you. So you have to make sure and evaluate with yourself, whether you have the resources mentally or physically to participate in that thing. You got to take that time to actually think it through. And maybe you're like, well, they're asking me right now, and I don't have 15 minutes to really like write a pros and cons list and make that decision. I get it. But that's why when things start coming up, maybe the first time, you for sure say no, because despite how much you want to go, you don't know if you'll be ready yet. And then you take more time as time goes along to explore how you're feeling about that. So maybe even a night where they don't invite you out, you try to think about, well, if I was to be invited out, how would I feel about that? If I was to be invited to this thing or that thing, or want to be involved in this thing, how would that go? And then just continually to become more self-aware and understanding of how you would react in those situations, or how they make you feel, or how they would affect you overall, and just know for the future so you can make quicker decisions in the moment when people invite you to do things. I hope that made sense. In addition to saying no, it's just important to know that it's okay to turn things down, walk away from uncomfortable situations, and make the best choice for you. Always. And I always bring it back to that. You're always just making the best choice for you. And turning things down can be tough. It can be tough, especially when everyone feels like they're quote unquote counting on you to be there, or if they're making it into a negative thing where they're like, oh, we need you to be there, you're the life of the party, you're the person that makes us laugh, you always entertain us. I would also take that with a little bit of caution of like, okay, what kind of person do I turn into when I'm involved in these events? That could just give you a little bit of caution of warning of like, oh, is that something I really want to be involved in if that's what they think about me and it's not just like a full group effort? I know that some friends can say that and they mean that in like the nicest way, and they don't mean it in a way that you make a fool of yourself and that is entertaining for them, but your crew. You just have to evaluate that on your own. But it's okay to turn things down. It's okay to walk away from uncomfortable situations. Like, you shouldn't be made to feel guilty because you decided to leave somewhere, even if it's just like an intimate gathering of friends and they start talking about a topic that you're uncomfortable with. Maybe you do have the courage to share with them that you're uncomfortable talking about that, especially if they're trying to draw you into the conversation. And then they continue to urge you on to talk about it, and you decide to leave that situation, that environment, because you just don't feel like safe anymore. You don't feel like it's comfortable, and it just makes you feel very, very uncomfortable to talk about those things. Like, it's totally fine. Just continue to tell yourself it's totally fine, because there was a time in my life where I didn't believe that was fine. I believed that I was letting people down. I feel like I was being rude. I felt like, despite actually being the nicest you can and letting them know how uncomfortable you are or how this is just not your vibe, and then taking that step back and people are still making you feel like you did the wrong thing when really you did the best thing that you could for yourself in the most polite way. It's like, don't believe any of those things that they're saying that you're the one being rude, unless you were being rude, and then if you were, please evaluate that. But just know that if you did everything the right way, you're just doing what's best for you, and that is on them, okay? Don't even worry about it. And I'm continuing to say that over and over and over again, because I know a lot of people have trouble with believing that it's okay to say no and it's okay to walk away from things, no matter how you feel, and you shouldn't feel obligated to apologize or explain that to anyone. So some examples, feel free to leave situations that may be harmful to you physically or mentally. So whether if that's with that group of friends, maybe it's with a romantic partner, maybe it's just with a friend one-on-one, maybe it's at work with a coworker or your boss, maybe it's at school with people that you go to school with, maybe if you're in like a friend group in your community and like someone's just really coming at you, like, even if it's someone over you that might be in a position over you that people wouldn't expect them to be inappropriate or rude or mean or act out in the way that they are, that is causing you to feel like harm could come to you physically or mentally, it doesn't matter, because what matters is how you feel and how you are being treated and what you can do about it in the moment, which is most likely step back, leave, walk away. Know it's okay to not need to change, fix, or rescue others from difficult problems, even if they really want your assistance. This may not be a healthy situation for you to be involved with. And I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that not only is it important for us to know that we need to not be in charge of changing, fixing, or rescuing other people from their problems, but even if they ask us. So I feel like it's more common for us to just feel responsible for other people's lives, and believe me, I am there too, and I have been growing out of that more and more on the regular, because it was over consuming, and actually for the first time the other day, I voiced that out loud to my husband, even though I've been working on it like on my own and like learning to like detach certain things, and we've talked about it over the years, how I always felt super responsible for his happiness when he was really just going through his own stuff, and I actually voiced it out for the first time, just fully like, oh no, everyone's responsible for their own feelings. Like, it just felt so freeing. And even his reaction was like, yeah, you're right. And it's just so helpful. But I wanted to make sure that I added in the part where even if they really want your assistance, so maybe there are codependent people in your lives that are asking you to fix their problems, to rescue them from difficult situations. They hang on you for that. That becomes a burden that you should not be bearing at all whatsoever, unless it's like a child, and that's a totally different relationship. And I'm talking about a young child, not a child that's like a grown person on their own. Like, you're still going to be there for them, but you shouldn't have to like be fixing their problems and rescuing them all the time. But you need to know that even if they ask you to do that, you do not have to accept that responsibility. That is not your responsibility at all. This can be this is not going to be a healthy situation for you. I'm telling you. You might think it's fine in the beginning. Maybe they only ask for it here or there a little bit, but a little bit turns into more and more and more and a lot and overwhelming, and to a point where you don't know how to step away from it because you're so deeply involved, you're about to drown in it. So just keep that in mind. And in addition to this, remember that others are not responsible for your feelings or your feelings, joy, or happiness, even if they are trying to take up that job and burden. Yes, it's a burden. I say it again, it's a burden. Do not let them. That is not their responsibility, and you shouldn't let it be. Just like I said, you are not responsible for fixing other people. People are not responsible for fixing you. They are not responsible for your feelings or your happiness. Happiness is an inside job, as people always say. You are responsible for your own happiness. Please, please know that. Now, yes, people in your life, things in your life, like your job, your hobbies, your kids, your spouse, your partners, your family, your friends, other people in your life, they can bring you joy and happiness, and that's great. That is so great. But it's not their responsibility to do so. So if they let you down, or at some point what they're bringing to you is not necessarily happiness, joy, and the best encouragement ever, then you can't hold that against them, because it's not their responsibility. Being happy is your responsibility. So please do not take it out on them if they do not deliver those things that you're so used to. You actually need to get out of that habit and learn how to soothe yourself as you would have a baby do. And don't take that the wrong way. It's just the way that the example came out. But yeah, it's a burden. It's a burden taking on other people's happiness, feelings, emotions, problems. Because at some point, the person taking on all those burdens is going to run out of bandwidth to take care of themselves, and they're going to be all consumed in that other person that they're going to fall apart, and it's going to be much harder to put them back together because they've spent all of their time working on that other person and not themselves at all whatsoever. Just became all consumed, which is such a dark place to begin. Believe me, I've been there. Remember, you are allowed to have your own personal space and privacy. You do not have to let anyone in if it will be too damaging to you. Absolutely not. But remember to keep balance between privacy and having relationships where some things are shared and then, some aren't. And you have to find the balance there on your own, and you will figure that out. I feel like once you figure it out with a couple people in your life, like maybe your spouse or your best friend or a family member, then you'll be able to understand where that balance is with other people. And please know that the balance with that kind of thing, with privacy and sharing the inner workings of your mind and your life, will be different from relationship to relationship, because as I mentioned yesterday, the relationship with your boss at work is going to be way different from your spouse at home, or even your best friend that you spend time with, or even your grandmother who you enjoy spending time with, to your children, or to the moms group that you're a part of, or to your pastor at church, or whomever it is. And every relationship can be different, so you're going to have to find that balance of that privacy level with everyone, and then maintain it and understand what that is. And that sounds like a lot of work. I get it, but it's totally worth it in the end. I absolutely promise you. And as a random note, it's a good idea to say no to gossip and talking behind people's backs. You wouldn't want it done to you, so don't do it to others. I feel like that's just the most common courtesy that you can give to people. Do not gossip. Do not talk to people behind their backs. Talk about people behind their backs, because it's just inappropriate. Why are we spending all of our time on gossip? And believe me, I know that a lot of us can get caught up in gossip, especially it's fun to talk about what you heard about such and such. And I know it's even more lax and accepted, like celebrity gossip, where to me, for some reason, celebrity gossip doesn't feel so much like gossip, because people are putting it out there on purpose. I don't know, that's hard for me. But when you are actually on purpose going to tell, hey, Karen, guess what Sue told me about Jim? Let me tell you all the deets, and they didn't tell you themselves directly. It wasn't like a conversation that that they would have told you on their own. I encourage you, as a boundary for yourself, do not get involved in gossip. It'll only cause you turmoil and so much trouble, and also guilt. Why do you even care about people's personal lives that bad? I know some of us are nosy. Believe me, I'm always poking my head out the window, especially since I'm working from home right now. What's going on out there? Who's out there? What's going on? What are they doing? But you need to try to keep your nose down and just focus on what's happening around you. Don't be so hyper-focused on what's going on in everyone else's life, especially when they're not telling you themselves and they don't want you to know. Because they probably don't want you to know if they didn't bother to go out of their way to tell you, okay? Okay. So that's about it, guys. That's about it that I have for today's episode. I just wanted to, touch on a couple things, which you're like, Sabrina, was more than a couple things, but I just wanted to touch on a few things on cases where you might find it hard to say no, but it's totally fine to say no in those situations, and I want to continue to encourage you about that. So let's just end it here. Again, happy Tuesday. Thanks again for coming to spend time with me, listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast and me, Sabrina, and I just hope that you have a good rest of your day. I hope it's absolutely fantastic. And I really hope that you come back and join me for tomorrow's episode. And if you really enjoyed this episode and you know someone else that also enjoyed it, I encourage you to share it. Take a look in the description box at any notes I have about the show, or where you can find me on Instagram, or an email for any questions, comments, or concerns. Again, thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a good one, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Bye.